The air on Xerxes Prime was poison, thick with ammonia and the metallic tang of distant industry. For the 7th Fleet, it was just another Tuesday. We huddled in our mobile bunkers, a desperate scab on the face of a world that didn't want us. Above, the sky wasn't black, but a bruised, perpetual twilight, lit by the cold glow of the system's distant sun. And in the center of that sky, a scar. The Scourge Array. It wasn't a weapon, not really. It was a leash. A planet-sized orbital ring that hummed with a power that made our most advanced reactors look like damp squibs. It was the heart of the Xylo's dominion, and from it, the Empress ruled 1,000 worlds with a thought. Her name was Vespera, the last of her kind, a being of pure consciousness encased in a chrysalis of living metal at the array's core. She didn't conquer with fleets or armies. She conquered with a laugh. Our mission, Operation Chimera, was pure suicide. A last-ditch effort by the Terran Confederation to sever the head of the snake. 10 ships went in. 9 were swatted from the sky like insignificant insects before they even reached orbit. My ship, the Theseus, a ramshackle troop transport with more patches than original hull, slipped through the debris field by playing dead. I was Corporal Eris Thorne, a demolitions expert. My job was simple: get to the array's primary reactor core and turn it into a cloud of exotic particles. My chances of survival were mathematically indistinguishable from zero. My commanding officer had shaken my hand, looked me in the eye, and said, "Make it mean something, son." He was dead 3 minutes later, his dropship a firework against the array's shimmering defense shield. The inside of the array was a cathedral of alien logic. Walls pulsed with soft light. Corridors curved in ways that made your inner ear scream. There were no guards. Why would there be? No one had ever gotten this far. I moved in a haze of adrenaline and terror, my magnetic boots thudding softly against the deck, following the radiation signature of the core. I found it, a vast, spherical chamber, humming with enough power to light a sun. And in front of it, she was waiting. She wasn't what I expected. No monstrous creature, no towering insectoid queen. Vespera appeared as a woman, tall and impossibly graceful, formed from coruscating light and the same living metal as her throne. Her face was a masterpiece of serene beauty, her eyes 2 swirling galaxies of captured starlight. She looked at me, a single, grimy human in a battered suit, clutching a satchel of high explosives, and she smiled. Then she laughed. It wasn't just a sound. It was a wave. It washed over me, carrying not mockery, but a pure, crystalline amusement. It was the laughter of a god watching an ant try to move a mountain. It was rich, complex, and utterly, soul-crushingly dismissive. "You are a curious thing," she said, her voice a symphony that resonated in my bones. "So much effort, so much fire, all to deliver yourself to my doorstep." She gestured a delicate hand at the pulsing core. "You wish to destroy this? This is but a trinket, a focus. My empire is not in this machine. It is in here." She tapped a finger to her temple. The gesture was so human it was horrifying. "My mind is the array. My will is the law across 1,000 systems. You cannot break an idea with an explosion, little soldier. You can only scatter its light." The words of my CO echoed in my head. "Make it mean something." But her laughter, it wasn't just in my ears. It was in my head. It was picking apart my training, my courage, my very sense of self. It was showing me, with perfect clarity, the futility of my mission. I saw the Confederation fall. I saw Earth burn. I saw my mother's face, confused and afraid, as the Xylo's ships descended. Her laughter was weaving a tapestry of my own despair and I was watching it, mesmerized, my finger frozen on the detonator. I was nothing. A joke. An ant. And then I saw it. A flicker. A glitch in her perfect projection. For a microsecond, her image wavered. The serene face contorted, not in anger, but in concentration. A bead of what looked like mercury sweat formed on her brow. Her laughter faltered, just a fraction of a note.
She was looking at me.
All of me. But she was also listening. To something else. To everything else. That's when I understood. My CO's last words. The 9 ships that went before us. They weren't a failed assault.
They were a shotgun blast.
10 ships, each carrying a single, determined soldier, just like me. I was the one who got through, but I wasn't the only one who tried. 9 other men and women, in 9 different locations across the gargantuan array, had just died. Their ships had been obliterated, their bodies vaporized. And Vespera felt every single one. Her mind, the fabled psychic network that bound her empire together, was a two-way street. She could broadcast her will, but she also had to receive the signal. The death of every subject, the final, silent scream of every mind under her dominion, it all flowed back to her. The fall of a sparrow in a distant system was a faint whisper, but the violent, terrified end of 9 determined human souls, happening simultaneously at the very heart of her power, it was a scream. She was processing 9 violent deaths. 9 final, chaotic bursts of human emotion, fear, rage, defiance, all at once. And while her attention was split, while her perfect consciousness was momentarily drowning in the psychic feedback of the carnage her own defenses had just wrought, she was trying to laugh at me. But she couldn't focus on me, because she was also feeling them. All of them. The quantum-entangled neural lace of her mind was flooded with static, with noise, with the very opposite of her serene, singular will. Her laughter died in her throat. Her form flickered again, violently this time. The image of the beautiful woman dissolved, revealing for a horrifying second the true Vespera, a pulsating, cerebral mass of organic and metallic tissue, connected to the walls by thousands of throbbing cables. She was in agony. "You," she hissed, the symphony of her voice now a discordant shriek. "What have you done?" I hadn't planted the bomb. I hadn't fired a shot. My only weapon was the one thing she, in all her transcendent power, had never truly understood. Chaos. We humans were not a united, logical empire. We were a messy, emotional, contradictory species. We felt 10 different things before breakfast. And in that moment, 10 of us had just gifted her the full, unfiltered fire hose of our messy humanity, all at once, right into the core of her being. I looked at the reactor core, then back at her writhing form. The plan was still good. Blow the core, destroy the array. But that was just a trinket, wasn't it? The empire was in her head. And her head was currently in lockdown, overwhelmed by a distributed denial-of-service attack made of human souls. I had a better idea. I unclipped the satchel from my chest. I walked past her, past the pulsing core, to a secondary control panel. She shrieked, trying to form a thought, to will me to stop, but she was drowning. I wasn't a demolitions expert for nothing. I knew how to reroute power, how to bypass safety protocols. I didn't set the bomb to destroy the core. I set it to overload the amplifiers. The charge went off with a dull whump. It wasn't a planet-shattering kaboom. It was a surgeon's scalpel. The amplifiers, the very machines that took her whispered thought and turned it into a galaxy-spanning command, flared with 1,000,000 times their normal output. For one eternal second, Vespera's pain, her psychic scream of feedback, wasn't contained within the walls of her chamber. It was broadcast. It was amplified. It was sent out along the very network she used to rule. Across 1,000 worlds, Xylo's governors suddenly clutched their heads and fell. Warships on patrol drifted, their pilots catatonic. On conquered planets, the psychic leash that bound the populace snapped. It wasn't freedom, not yet. But it was chaos. It was a static-filled scream that shattered the perfect silence of the Dominion. On Xerxes Prime, the light in the sky, the Scourge array, went dark. In her chamber, Vespera was a crumpled, silent thing. The living metal had gone dull. The swirling galaxies in her eyes were dead stars. Her empire, built on the singular clarity of her will, had just been force-fed the one thing it couldn't process, the raw, unfiltered, chaotic death scream of its own making. I stood there for a long time, breathing in the sterile, suddenly silent air. My mission was a failure. The array was intact. The core still hummed. But the Empress was gone. And without the Empress, the Dominion was just a collection of scared, confused beings, suddenly alone in their own heads for the first time in centuries. My calm crackled to life, a storm of panicked and jubilant voices from the surface. The Xylos forces were in disarray. They were pulling back. They were confused. I looked at the silent, broken chrysalis. She had laughed at the human soldier, at his primitive bomb, his futile charge. She was right. I couldn't break her empire with an explosion. But I didn't need to. I just needed to make it listen.